welcome to my channel. I have been working through the Psalms and we are almost finished. We are working on Psalm 143 today. We are still in the middle of a collection of 8 Psalms that are all attributed to David. And we are now in Psalm 143. So let's look at a verse and then we will read this psalm and walk through this one. So I'm going to read to you Psalm 119, verse 72, which says, "The law from your mouth is more precious to me than thousands of pieces of silver and gold." Lord, we do acknowledge that your word is precious to us. And as we read it today, I pray that our hearts would be changed, that we would see you more clearly, that we would grow closer to you through this. In your name, amen. All right, so let us read this first, and then we are going to do a bunch of highlighting and categorizing today again, as we have done in the past. It says, "Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. In your faithfulness and righteousness, come to my relief. Do not bring your servant into judgment, for no one living is righteous before you. The enemy pursues me. He crushes me to the ground. He makes me dwell in the darkness like those long dead. So my spirit grows faint within me. My heart within me is dismayed. I remember the days of long ago. I meditate on all your works and consider what your hands have done. I spread out my hands to you. I thirst for you like a parched land. Answer me quickly, Lord. My spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, or I will be like those who go down to the pit. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord, for I hide myself in you. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. For your name's sake, Lord, preserve my life. In your righteousness, bring me out of trouble. In your unfailing love, silence my enemies. Destroy all my foes, for I am your servant." Now, as I'm looking at this psalm, I see a lot of more what we would call prayers, crying out to God for things, which is a little bit different from some of the other psalms that we've looked at. This psalm has a couple different categories. One of them would be a lament, and we're going to call it an individual lament because it's David crying out. But then this has also been categorized as a penitential psalm. And according to the one commentary that I read, it said that there are 7 penitential psalms. And a penitential psalm reminds the reader of the great divide between God and humanity. So we see, God being so much more than we are. And then it also gives voice to humanity's entreat to God to hasten or to come or to deliver. And that's what we're going to see in this psalm. Now, the other thing in this psalm is I've seen it completely categorized into 3 different things. We're going to see a lot of petitions. So crying out to God and asking him to do something. We're going to see confessions or I trust you, or this is who you are. That kind of thing would be called a confession. And then we're also going to see a complaint, which would be the writer's telling God what is going on in his life at that time. So what we're going to do today is instead of going through and let's look for all of the petitions, now let's look for all the confessions. We're literally just going to go verse by verse and label things. So what I want to do first is make a key over on the left for our 3 things. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write petitions, and then confessions and complaints. And then typically when I do this in my Bible, I'm going to use colored pencils to highlight things. And I like to use colored pencils that are distinctly different in color. Sometimes I feel like my green and my yellow are too close together in color. They don't look close together in color here, but when I put them on the paper, they do. For me anyway. And so I like to pick 3 different, let's do green and pink and blue will be my 3 colors. And I'm going to label, let's make the petitions, let's make the confessions the green, that nice highlighted green. And then we'll do the petitions in my pink. And then I'm going to do the complaints in blue, so that later when I look at this, I'll be able to kind of distinguish everything as we walk through this. So the other thing we're going to do is there's a few words we're going to look up. Not a lot, but there's a few that I think we've seen before, and I think it's always good to look them up and just make sure that it's the same word. So let's start with the very beginning verse. Number 1, Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. In your faithfulness and righteousness, come to my relief. So let's go through, first of all, right here. What do we see? Do we see a petition, a confession, or a complaint? So, Lord, hear my prayer. That would be a petition, right? Asking God to do something. So I'm going to color right over the words, and I'm just going to do it real lightly so you can still see it. If I color too dark, then it's much harder to see. So, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. That's the petition there. Then it says, in your faithfulness and righteousness. That to me is a confession. I am saying that God is faithful and God is righteous. This is who God is. So I am just going to label that, right, faithful and righteousness. But then come to my relief is again what the petition is. So far we've had hear my prayer, listen to my cry, and come to my relief. Now, the next thing I want to do before we move on is just to look at a few of those words, because whenever I hear the word hear, my brain always goes, is that the word Shema? Because if it is, I love that word. That's that hear, not just hear, but do. And I looked it up, and it is indeed Shema. So I'm just going to write it right over here. It's 8085, and it is the word Shema. And it means to hear and do. So heed, more than just listen, physically listen, right? And then we have listen to my cry for mercy. Some versions say listen to my supplications. And so I thought I would look that word up, and I found something interesting with that word. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to write this down for you. So this word mercy is the Strong's number 8469, and it is the word tachanun, and it's spelled Tachanun. And it basically means a supplication or a crying out for favor. Well, that makes sense to me, because if you look here, you've got this Hanan right here, and there is another Hebrew word that is Hanan, which is asking for God's favor or God's grace. And so literally that's what this is. This mercy here basically means crying out for favor or for grace. So I'm just going to write crying out for, and it's for favor and for grace. So that's what's happening here. He's saying, Lord, hear and do what I'm praying. Listen to my cries for grace and for favor. And then I'm crying out to the character of God. I know that you are faithful, and I know that you are righteous. And then because of that, I am crying out for your relief, because I know that you are able to do that. And not crying out because of I'm worthy, but because of the character of God. So I love that. So now let's look at verse 2. Do not bring your servant into judgment, for no one is living righteous before you. So a couple interesting things in this verse. First of all, that word servant. David is calling himself a servant. That mindset that God is in control and I'm not. I love that. I think that that's super good for us to keep in mind, that we are servants of God. But again, is this a petition? What is this? I think there's a little bit of both, or a little bit of a couple things in here again. So first thing we see is don't bring your servant into judgment. So that would be a petition. Don't bring your servant into judgment. But then he's saying no one living is righteous before you. That's a complaint. He's basically saying there is no one righteous. And that reminded me of a couple different verses. The first verse would have been Romans 3:23, which says, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So again, we see that no one is righteous. In our own strength as a human being, we are not righteous. I mean, that's basically what this verse is saying. So it's interesting that we see this verse in the Old Testament, but I think Paul literally used that concept several times in the scriptures. He says in Galatians 2:16, yet we know that a person is reckoned or as righteous, not by works of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ. So there it is again. It's like no one is righteous in their own power, in their own strength, or because of who they are. And that's what he's saying there. So is that a complaint? I would list that as more of a complaint. He's just saying, don't judge me because no human being is righteous. Okay, so I'm gonna underline that as a complaint. So we've got our three categories seen here now. So let's look at verse 3. It says, the enemy pursues me, he crushes me to the ground, he makes me dwell in darkness like those long dead. All of that is a complaint, right? The enemy pursues me, he crushes me, he makes me dwell in darkness. All a complaint. So we can see here that David is struggling with some enemy pursuing him. And we don't know who it is, but he's just saying, this is where I'm at right now, as I'm being pursued by an enemy, and I need you to, again, come to my relief. Answer these prayers of mine. Answer these petitions. Verse 4, so my spirit grows faint within me. My heart within me is dismayed. And this, again, is a complaint. He's saying where he is right now, like, I'm growing weak because of my enemy pursuing me. My heart is dismayed because it's basically like, I can't take this any longer. This is what I'm going through, and it's really bringing me down. Then verse 5 says this, I remember the days of long ago. I meditate on all your works and consider what your hands have done. Remember, I love that word. Remember is such a powerful word in the scriptures. It literally occurs like almost 200 times. And I think that this is really a key to hope, is remembering, musing, meditating over what God has done in the past, which will bring us hope for the future. So this is what we would consider a confession. Again, it's, I am telling you what my trust in God is going to be, or I'm telling you who God is. So I'm just going to highlight a few things here. He remembers, he meditates, he considers, but it's what your hands have done. It's what God has done. That's what I'm going to do. I confess that I am going to remember and consider and meditate on God. I'm going to do what I've seen. I'm going to believe what I've seen God do in the past, and there's where my hope is going to be. Then verse 6, I spread out my hands to you. I thirst for you like a parched land. This, again, is a confession. It's what he's doing. See, I remember, I meditate, I consider, and now it's, I spread out my hands to you and I thirst for you. I confess, this is where I'm at. Then he goes back into a petition. Answer me quickly, Lord. Okay, so there's that petition again. But then he says, my spirit fails. So we have a petition and a complaint. So the petition this time is answer me quickly. And then the complaint would be my spirit fails. And he did say that earlier too. My spirit grows faint. So here it is, my spirit fails. And then the next part of the verse, do not hide your face from me, or I will be like those who go down to the pit. Okay, so what is that? That is, again, his petition. Do not hide your face from me. Okay, Or I will be like those that go down to the pit. So it's like, I need you, God, to move, or this is what's going to happen to me. Verse 8, let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love. There again is what he's praying for. So this is, oh, I did that wrong, didn't I? Sorry. Let me go back. Answer me quickly. This right here. Sorry. It's a good thing I do this in colored pencil, because even colored pencil can be erased a little bit. Do not hide your face from me was a petition, so that should have been colored in. Okay, so a petition, and a complaint. Let your morning bring me word of your unfailing love. That again is a petition. I am asking that when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to know that you have moved. So this is a petition. I need to see your unfailing love. And then he says this, for I have put my trust in you. So what is that? That's back to my confession. This is what I am doing. I am putting my trust in God. And then he says, show me the way I should go. So that is a petition again. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Okay, so show me the way I should go would be a petition. For to you I entrust my life. I would say that that is probably another confession. I entrust my life to you, just like I put my trust in you. It's kind of the same statement. So those would both be, again, you're confessing what I'm going to do. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord, for I hide myself in you. So again, we've got the petition and the trust. Again, the petition this time is rescue me. And the confession is I hide myself in you. Verse 10, teach me to do your will, for you are my God. So do you see the pattern that's coming now? And I love that. It's like I'm crying out to God, but I'm also confessing what I believe and what I believe about God. So teach me to do your will would again be the petition, and then you are my God is the confession. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. That is a petition, right? So may your good spirit lead me on level ground. I'd like my life to have level ground instead of ups and downs all the time. That's basically what he's saying. For your name's sake, Lord, preserve my life. There's another petition. In your righteousness, bring me out of trouble. Another petition. In your unfailing love, silence my enemies. Another petition. Destroy all my foes. Another petition. You see that? But then if you want to do some highlighting, like what are the things that he's saying? Well, we can just look at, okay, is he talking about God or is he confessing what he's going to do? Well, here I would say he's calling out to Yahweh. So that would be who God is, right? God is Yahweh. God is righteous. And God has unfailing love. And then I am your servant. There's the confession again. So even in this, even in the middle of all of the petitions, we see so much of who God is, or so much of confessing, this is how I'm going to live my life. This is what I'm looking to, because I know who the God is that I serve. He is a God of faithfulness and righteousness. He is the Lord Yahweh, the covenant-keeping God. That is the God that I serve because I am his servant, right? So no matter what I'm going through in life, I can petition God based on his character. I can trust him because he is my God. He is righteous and he has unfailing love. That's hesed towards me. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to confess, Lord, I will remember what you have done. I will meditate on all of your works. I will consider what your hands have done. I will spread out my hands to you. I thirst for you. I put my trust in you. I hide myself in you because you are God. So even though I see this psalm listed as a lament or a penitential, like, God, hear me, I need you. I love looking at the psalm and just seeing all the positive things that we can get from this as far as who God is and how we ought to live our lives, especially when we feel like the enemy is pursuing us or he is crushing us. So, Lord, I thank you for this psalm. I thank you for the fact that you are a God who is faithful and righteous, Lord. And we come before you right now, Lord, and we say we put our trust in you. Lord, you are our God. Help us to trust our lives to you. Help us to meditate on your word and consider all your ways and keep going back to remembering who you are and how you've worked, especially when we're in the midst of trouble. Lord, I thank you for who you are and how you work in our lives and that you are that gracious God who hears. In your name, amen. Well, thank you for joining me for Psalm 133.